This isn't a motivation video. You've watched those. You know exactly what happens. You feel something for a few minutes, maybe an hour, then nothing changes. Then you forget you even watched it. I'm not here to do that to you. What I want to show you is something most people spend their entire lives not seeing. Not because it's hidden, because it's too close, because it looks exactly like an ordinary Tuesday, like a quiet evening, like one more hour of doing nothing in particular. Your life isn't disappearing in disasters, it's disappearing in those moments. And the decision that's costing you the most, you probably made it today, without noticing, without it feeling like a decision at all. So let me ask you something. What actually got you out of your head last week? Not relaxed, out of your head. So absorbed in something that time stopped mattering. If you had to think about that just now, that pause is already the answer. Because the brain doesn't file away everything equally. Intense experiences, new, emotional, fully lived, those get recorded. They feel long in memory. But hours spent passively, on autopilot, half present, the brain barely registers them. Technically, it's almost as if they didn't happen. Not to you, not with you. And those hours are adding up. Seneca wrote this 2,000 years ago. Life is not short. We make it short. Everyone reads that, agrees, and picks up their phone. But he wasn't being poetic. He was describing something almost neurological. Lost time is gone, but unlived time is different. It doesn't disappear, it accumulates. At first, just a faint weight. Then you feel it in your mornings. Then you feel it everywhere. Now here's where I need to slow down, because this is the moment most people make a wrong turn. You hear all this and something in you says, fine, I'll be more productive. And that instinct, as reasonable as it sounds, might actually be the more dangerous trap. Busy is not the same as alive. You've seen this in people. Packed schedules, exhausted by 9, always somewhere to be, and somehow still empty. Burnout doesn't come from doing too little. It comes from spending yourself on the wrong things, completely, consistently, without ever stopping to ask whether any of it actually matters to you. That distinction is everything. But to really understand it, you need to understand what's happening inside your brain. Your brain's reward system was built for short-term payoffs. That's not a flaw. It kept your ancestors alive. But now it's being used against you. Every notification, every recommended video, every small hit of social validation, that's a dopamine release. Immediate, easy, and it feels stronger in the moment than anything slow and meaningful could. The people designing these systems know this. The loop is intentionally unpredictable. Sometimes there's something there, sometimes there isn't. That uncertainty is the mechanism. It's the same logic as a slot machine, and you're pulling that lever for hours every day without realizing you're even in the casino. Think about the last time you picked up your phone without meaning to. Not to check something specific, just picked it up. You probably don't even remember doing it, because it happened below the level of decision. That's the point. These systems aren't competing with your bad habits. They're competing with your unconscious. And your unconscious is faster than any intention you've ever had. There's a term researchers use, zombie mode. The state where your body is doing things your conscious mind never approved. You're scrolling, but you're not there. You're watching, but you're not present. You're technically awake, but nothing is being recorded. And the frightening part isn't that it happens. It's how long it can go on before you surface and realize, I've been gone for an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes the whole evening. That's not laziness. That's a system working exactly as designed. On you. So why can't you just stop knowing all this? Because the answer has nothing to do with willpower. Willpower is a resource. It depletes. Every decision you make, every urge you resist, every small act of self-control draws from the same finite pool. By evening, that pool is close to empty, which is why the worst choices always seem to happen at night. The food you didn't want to eat, the content that meant nothing, the sleep you kept delaying. And in the morning you wake up, and the quiet guilt is already there before you've even done anything. You don't need more discipline, you need a different structure. But before you can build that structure, there's a question you have to answer first. A question most people have never seriously sat with. Most people, when they decide to change, start by adding. A new habit here, a new routine there, a morning ritual, an evening wind down, a productivity system with color-coded categories. And none of it sticks. Not because the ideas are bad, because they're being built on an unstable foundation. You can stack habits on top of a life that has no clear center, but they won't hold. They'll slide off eventually. Always. The structure that actually works isn't a schedule, it's a hierarchy of what matters. And you can't build that hierarchy from the outside in by copying someone else's morning routine or optimizing your calendar. You can only build it from the inside out, which is why the question that comes next is the one most productivity advice skips entirely, because it's harder than any habit, and it can't be answered in a weekend. I hadn't for a long time. What are you actually living for? I know how that sounds. Obvious, maybe even irritating, and something in you probably wants to move past it quickly. But when was the last time you tested that answer? Not thought about it, tested it. Because research consistently shows that when most people are genuinely asked this question, they either go abstract or they go quiet. I want to be happy, they say. But happiness isn't a direction. It's what happens when you're moving in the right one. Start there and you'll wander. Work backwards from it and you might actually find something real. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps. As a psychiatrist, he spent years inside them observing. And what he found wasn't what you might expect. The survivors weren't the strongest. They weren't the most optimistic. The ones who made it were the ones who had something to return to, someone waiting, work unfinished, something left to say. Frankl didn't write this up as inspiration. He framed it as a biological necessity. Meaninglessness isn't just uncomfortable, it's physiologically stressful. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, for what makes you, you. It physically shrinks under sustained purposelessness. We can see this now, on scans. Which means living without meaning doesn't just leave you with regret, it changes the structure of your brain. So what does it actually feel like to have a sense of purpose versus not having one? Most people assume they'd know the difference, that purposelessness would feel dramatic, dark, obvious. But it rarely does. It usually feels like mild restlessness, like being faintly bored even when you're busy, like reaching for your phone, not because you want anything on it, but because you're quietly running from something you can't name. That nameless thing is often just the absence of direction. And the cruel irony is this: the more you fill that absence with distraction, the harder it becomes to hear what was underneath it. The question gets quieter. The days start to resemble each other. And at some point, and this is the part that unsettles me, you stop noticing that you stopped noticing. That's the slow version of a wasted life. Not a dramatic collapse, just a gradual dimming. So incremental you almost can't see it while it's happening. The moment you feel the weight of all this, the wasted evenings, the unlived hours, the unanswered question, something in you wants to fix everything immediately. New habits, new goals, new version of yourself, starting Monday. I've done this. Most people have. The first 2 weeks feel like momentum. By the third, something starts to give. By the fourth, you're back where you started, except now there's a new story layered on top. This is just who I am. The brain resists total overhaul. It's not weakness, it's biology. Homeostasis pulls you toward the familiar, the predictable. Force it hard enough and it doesn't break. It waits. And then it wins by exhaustion. Stanford researchers asked elderly people about their regrets. Not what they wished had gone differently, what they wished they had done. The answers were almost universal. Not the risks they took, the ones they didn't. Not the things they said, the ones they left unsaid. Not the attempts that failed, the ones they never made. And almost all of it traced back to a single, quiet fear. What if I try and it doesn't work? Here's what the research also shows. The pain of failure fades. The brain adapts to it. But regret doesn't fade the same way, because regret isn't a memory. It's a living, ongoing simulation of a life you could have had. It doesn't end, it just runs in the background indefinitely. So what actually works? It won't sound like much. That might be exactly why most people don't do it. No overhaul, no manifesto, just one question, asked honestly, every morning. Where in my life do I actually want to show up today? One thing, not a list, not a system, one thing, chosen with intention, and then done. And then tomorrow, the same question again. Small, consistent, meaningful action doesn't just build habits. Over time, it reshapes identity. And when identity shifts, behavior stops feeling like effort. It just becomes what you do, who you are. Think about compound interest. Most people apply that concept to money and nowhere else. But effort compounds. So does neglect. Both are accumulating right now, whether you're paying attention or not. The difference is, one you choose, the other simply happens to you. And every day you delay that choice, the second kind gets harder to reverse. Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying when people are least unhappy. Not most joyful, least unhappy. What he found surprised people. It wasn't vacation, it wasn't leisure. It was complete absorption. Flow. Being so fully inside something, a problem, a craft, a conversation, that the self temporarily disappears. Not a screen, something real, something that pushes back, something that requires you. When did you last feel that? If you had to think about it, you already know what that means. I want to be honest with you about something. I'm not describing a problem I solved. I'm describing a problem I'm inside of, same as you. Some weeks the question gets answered. Some weeks it doesn't. Some mornings the intention is clear and the day follows it. Other mornings the hours just go. But here's what's changed. I notice now. And noticing, even when you don't immediately act on it, is not nothing. It's actually everything. Because you can't steer towards something you can't see. The moment you start seeing your own patterns clearly, something shifts. Not dramatically, quietly. Like a very slow course correction on a very long journey. The goal isn't to live every day at full intensity. That's not sustainable, and it's not even desirable. The goal is just to be present enough that at the end of the day, something was real. Something was yours. Not wasting your life isn't a plan you make once. It's a question you keep asking. Every morning, this day is real, and I'm in it, and something is required of me. Maybe small, maybe invisible to everyone else, but genuine. And at night, before you sleep, just one thing. Did today actually happen? Not did you get through it, did you live it? If the answer isn't clear yet, that's okay. You don't need to have it figured out right now. Just don't stop asking. Because the people who stop asking eventually forget there was ever a question. And forgetting, that's the real danger. Not failure, not falling behind. Forgetting that the question was ever yours to answer. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for upcoming videos, each one designed to expand your mind, deepen your awareness, and take you one step further on your journey of consciousness.